Can you hear me? Great. Hi. Looks like we have a quorum and it is 7 o'clock, so ready to go live in minutes. I think the clock of this is 7:01. That's why I'm that. We're going to start. I'm sharing. I have to gavel. That's why I have to gavel. Good evening. I'm here to call this regular meeting of the City of Pinole Planning Commission to order as it is Monday, August 14th, 2023, and it is 7 o'clock. Before I continue with the rest of the meeting, I'd like to briefly go over the ways to watch the meeting and how you can submit public comments. You can, of course, watch the meeting in person by attending at the Pinole City Council Chambers, 2131 Pear Street. You can watch live on channel 26 or on the city's website at www.ci.pinole.ca.us. Video streamed again at the same link, or via Zoom video conference, more details which I'll provide when we get to the submit public comments portion. You can also contact Planning Manager David Handham if those options do not work for you or you need assistance with public comment at 510-724-8912 or dhanham@ci.pinole.ca.us. If you would like to submit public comments in person, you can attend the meeting at the council chambers, fill out a public comment card and submit it to the planning manager. You can also submit remote public comments via Zoom. You can download that from your favorite app store. You can also join on a desktop computer. The hyperlink you would use to join would be https://us02web.zoom.us/j/86505375301 or https://zoom.us/join with the webinar ID of 865-0537-5301. You can also join by phone by dialing 1-669-900-6833 or 1-253-215-8782 or 1-346-248-7799 and been entering the webinar ID when requested. Speakers will be asked to provide their name and city of residence, although providing this is not required for participation. Each speaker will be afforded up to 5 minutes to speak. Speakers will be muted until their opportunity to provide public comment. When the chair opens the comment tray for the item you wish to speak on, please use the raise hand feature or press *9 if connecting via telephone, which will alert staff that you have a comment to provide. Once you have been identified to speak, please check to make sure that you have unmuted yourself in the video conference application or press *6 if connecting via telephone. If you wish to submit written comments, please submit them ideally before the meeting via email to dhanham@ci.pinole.ca.us. Please include your full name, city of residence, and agenda item you are commenting on. In compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990, if you need special assistance to participate in a city meeting or you need a copy of the agenda or the agenda packet in an appropriate alternative format, please contact the Development Services Department at 510-724-8912. Notification of at least 48 hours prior to the meeting or time when services are needed will assist the city staff in ensuring that reasonable arrangements can be made to provide accessibility to the meeting or service. Finally, some more details on citizen participation. Persons wishing to speak on an item listed on the agenda may do so when the chair asks for comments in favor of or in opposition to the item under consideration. After all of those persons wishing to speak have done so, the hearing will be closed and the matter will be discussed amongst the commission prior to rendering a decision. Any person may appeal an action of the Planning Commission or of the planning manager by filing an appeal with the city clerk in writing within 10 days of such action. Following a public hearing, the City Council may act to confirm, modify, or reverse the action of the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission may act to confirm, modify, or reverse the action of the Planning Manager. The cost to appeal a decision is $500 with a minimum $2,500 deposit fee. Note, if you challenge a decision of the Commission regarding a project in court, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised at the public hearing or in writing delivered to the City of Pinole at or prior to the public hearing. Now we're going to continue with the Pledge of Allegiance. For those who wish to join me, please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We also, appropriately for our Planning Commission, have a land acknowledgement. Before we begin, we would like to acknowledge the Ohlone people, who are the traditional custodians of this land. We pay our respects to the Ohlone elders, past, present, and future, who call this place Ohlone land, the land that Pinole sits upon, their home. We are proud to continue their tradition of coming together and growing as a community. We thank the Ohlone community for their stewardship and support, and we look forward to strengthening our ties as we continue our relationship of mutual respect and understanding. And now we have the roll call. Planning Manager Hannon, if you please.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. This on. Okay. Commissioner Sandoval.
Present.
Commissioner Lam Julian.
Here.
Commissioner Bender.
Present.
Commissioner Van Willis. Absent. Commissioner Martinez. Absent. Vice Chair Menes.
Present.
Chair Benzuli.
You need to unmute, Chair.
Hi, present, but I'm attending virtually due to a recent COVID exposure that I thought best not to be there in person.
No problem. Just let the record show that we have 5 commissioners, 2 absence. Mr. Martinez, Frank Martinez gave me an email saying he wouldn't be here tonight. So, but we have a quorum to act on all items. So thank you.
Very good. And I believe this would also be the point where I'd mention any ex parte stuff. So as usual, I sent out an ex parte message about this meeting to my email list. Are there any other potential conflicts or other ex parte comments that the commission wishes to mention before we move on from roll call?
And just one note for the record, Vice Chair, that I guess Chair Benzuli is using the just cause provisions in AB 2449 to participate remotely this evening.
Great, thanks for clarifying that, Attorney Young. So with that, I will go ahead and open citizens to be heard. The public may address the planning commission on items that are within its jurisdiction and not otherwise listed on the agenda. Planning commissioners may discuss the matter brought to their attention by state law and the Ralph M. Brown Act. Action must be deferred to a future meeting, time allowed 5 minutes per person. Do we have any persons wishing to speak under citizens to be heard?
Yes, I see one person online with a phone number ending in 5748. And when you're ready to speak, please press star 6 to unmute. Yeah, a person with the phone number ending in 5748. You're available to speak right now. Please press star 6 to unmute.
Alex, if you choose not to speak, we move forward.
All right.
Next.
We can, I guess, wrap back around during communications if people are unable to communicate at this time. Are there any other citizens who wish to be heard?
No, that's it.
All right, then I will close citizens to be heard. The next item on the agenda is the meeting minutes, our planning commission meeting minutes from our meeting of June 26, 2023. Do any commissioners have any comments on the minutes? All right, would any commissioners like to make a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting, the Pinole Planning Commission, June 26, 2023. As it's
I'll second that. Chair Benzuli.
All right, so motion by Commissioner Bender, second by Chairman Zuli. I don't believe there's any further discussion, so can we have a roll call?
Sure. Commissioner Sandoval,
Yes.
Commissioner Lamb Julian,
Yes.
Commissioner Bender,
yes.
Vice Chair Menace,
Yes,
Chair Benzuli,
Yes.
motion carried 5-0.
thank you. All right. We now have a public hearing. At the beginning of the item, the chair will read, after the vice chair will read the description of that item as stated on the agenda. City staff will then give a brief presentation of the proposed project. The commission may then ask staff questions about the item. For those items listed as public hearings, the chair will open the public hearing and ask the applicant if they wish to make a presentation. Those persons in favor of the project will then be given an opportunity to speak, followed by those who are opposed to the project. The applicant will then be given an opportunity for rebuttal. The public hearing will then be closed and the commission may discuss the matter amongst themselves and ask questions of staff. The commission will then vote to approve, deny, approve in a modified form, or continue the matter to a later date for a decision. The chair will announce the commission's decision and advise the audience of the appeal procedure. No public hearings will begin after 11 p.m. Items still remaining on the agenda after 11 p.m. will be held over to the next meeting, but it is currently 7:12 p.m. So that is an issue. So we're now beginning our public hearing on comprehensive design review PL 23-003 and DR 23-01 or 2550 Appian Way. And I believe the first item we have up for that is a staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Yes, tonight before you, we have a comprehensive design review for Pinole Terrace LLC, which is located at 2550 APN Way in Pinole. The total property size is 2.4 acres, which is approximately 250,000 square feet. This general plan land use designation for the property is MUSA, or mixed use sub area. General plan land use designation is mixed use. And our specific plan land use designation is commercial mixed use as a zoning. As terms of the review authority, the Planning Commission has review authority of both the comprehensive design review as well as the California Environmental Quality Act determination. The Pinole Terrace property is owned by, or the property located at 2550 APN Way, otherwise known as Pinole Terrace, is owned by a limited liability corporation, Pinole Terrace LLC. The center was built in 1987 and is home to a number of restaurants, professional offices, and personal services that serve the local community and beyond. Access to the project site is from APN Way. The project area is bounded by the Pinole Vista Shopping Center to the north, the Days Inn Motel to the south, APN Way to the east, and a portion of the Pinole Vista Shopping Center to the west, as well as some vacant land. The site is currently developed with two-story commercial buildings totaling approximately 37,000 square feet. In 1991, Pinole Terrace enclosed a portion of the parking area underneath Building 1. And kind of give you a little just project description regarding Building 1 is what I call a 2.5 story, 20,000 square foot building that sits at the most northwestern portion of the site, adjacent to Pinole Vista Shopping Center. The primary access to Building 1 is through the lower level, which contains an accounting office, a couple of restaurants, and personal service businesses. The upper story of Building 1 contains professional offices. Building 1 is kind of not as built in the hillside, and therefore also features 6 covered or what we call semi-enclosed parking spaces underneath the lower level. These spaces are reserved for public use. The property owner has reported to planning staff that the Pinole Terrace Center has had some security issues in this area due to open and unsecured parking stalls. Building 2 is a 2-story, 17,000 square foot building as it sits at the most southeastern portion of the site, adjacent to the neighboring Days Inn Motel. Primary access to Building 2 is through the lower level, which features a restaurant and personal service businesses. The upper story of the Building 2 consists of professional offices. The site is currently partially landscaped with sidewalks and pedestrian paths of travel connecting Buildings 1 and 2. And overall, there's 131 parking spaces that are provided throughout the entire center. The property owner is proposing to convert an existing covered and partially enclosed utility spaces and 6 parking spaces underneath Building 1 into an additional 1,960 square feet of leasable commercial professional office. And what I mean, convert existing, the closed spaces, those 6 spaces will be moved to the parking area that's been redesigned. The proposed project requires a retroactive approval due to the premature partial enclosure we'll call it 2050B on the site plan prior to receiving entitlements and building permits. The action has added an approximate 1,000 additional square feet of commercial area and removed 3 parking stalls. The owner has requested formal approval of the proposed project, which requires a comprehensive design review and a subsequent building permit. If granted, the permits would allow the owner to complete the work as started in 2022, and enclose an additional 960 square feet of floor area and remove the final 3 final parking stalls. As a figure 1 in your staff reports, just outline the Pinole Terrace Shopping Center and Building 1 and Building 2. We kind of drew like a bubble circle around the addition area to kind of give you an idea that the enclosures on the rear of the property on the west side, on the north side. The project site expands approximately 2.4 acres, 2 buildings. The applicant is proposing to construct 2 commercial professional office spaces totaling approximately 960 square feet. The construction of the 2 leasable tenant spaces will be in the parking spaces underneath Building 1. The project will realign the existing open air diagonal parking at the northwestern edge of the project into parallel spaces. A new trash enclosures will be built in the southwest corner of the property. Currently, there are none. The project will add a utility room on the east side of the building for the 2 new commercial spaces. Additional landscaping will be added in the east side of the building for the 2 commercial spaces, or will be added in the southwest corner of the property. The applicant will also be required to replace any landscaping that was included as part of the original project area. So if there's some dead and some landscaping, there'll be some replacement of that landscaping as part of this project. Landscape plans will be reviewed and approved by city staff. The new project area will increase the total parking area from 21 to 26 parking spaces. The project site will have an additional lighting on the rear of building 1, consistent with the existing lighting that is currently on the building. As part of the applicant will install small wall-mounted lights on the rear portion of the building, as seen in figure 2. Above the doors, the rest of the complex will remain the same and is not part of the project. The color of the project will match the existing tan color of the building. The stucco and textured walls used in the new construction are consistent with the existing structure. The project will create 2 new commercial spaces at this time. Basically, the entitlements for and required city of Pinole approvals require a comprehensive design review and a super determination. Pursuant to PMC Table 17.1060-1, the Planning Commission has approval authority of the comprehensive design review and the secret documentation. To kind of give you an idea in terms of site parameters of kind of what's on the outside of the site as well. I've already mentioned that the Pinole Vista is kind of like on the north and to the west. We have Days Inn to the south, Appian Way, which has some surrounding residential uses across the street. There are also the existing business Days Inn to the south. The project site is typically flat. However, the property slopes down from the southeast of the property to the northwest portion of the property. And then the project area underneath building 1 is at the low portion of the property. In terms of the analysis section, basically this section of the report will analyze the Pinole Terrace entitlement application and the findings that are required to be met in order to grant approval from the Planning Commission. This portion of the report will also state the application is consistent with the city's general plan, 3-quarter specific plan, and zoning ordinance. As a part of the consistency evaluation, the Planning Commission is required to make specific findings and other considerations consistent with Chapter 17.12. We'll go over those as we get to that section of the report. In terms of general plan consistency, again, as stated before, the property is located at 2550 Appian Way. It's got a general plan land use and a specific plan land use of mixed use service area. It has a commercial zoning of CMU, commercial mixed use, which the mixed use sub area encourages mixed residential and commercial development that is united by transit and pedestrian improvements, parks and public spaces. This land designation allows all types of commercials and residential uses as either a single use or a combination, but there are other allowable commercial and residential uses at densities and intensities that support transit service. The designation is intended to encourage the ground floor pedestrian-friendly retail sales and service uses with upper floors of office and residential uses. Commercial activities can include a range of retail activity from neighborhood convenience stores and community shopping centers to regionally oriented specialty stores and office uses, including administrative, professional, medical, and dental offices. Residential uses may include single-family and multifamily residential uses. As part of this program, the Pinole Terrace helps implement numerous policies within the different elements of the general plan. Staff has included policies from the community character element, the land use economic development element, the circulation element, the health and safety element, and the natural resources and open space element. If you have any questions, those staff would be happy to answer those questions. In terms of staff's comment, based on the policies listed above from the general plan, in addition to the fact that the Pinole Terrace Center has been developed since 1987, the majority of improvements have been installed and are currently functioning. Also, the new construction is within the current footprint of building 1, so there's no increase to the footprint of the existing building. Since the construction of building 1 was in 1987, 2 new general plans have been adopted. Both the first enclosure of the parking underneath building 1 and the new proposed construction have made this area more consistent with the policies of the general plan. This project is correcting a number of infrastructure issues, e.g. additional sidewalks, additional ADA compliance parking spaces, increased number of parking spaces, new trap capture devices, and trash enclosures. et cetera. Deficiencies, as well as creating additional commercial space that is consistent with the policies of the general plan. Staff concludes that based on the discussion above, this project is consistent with the general plan. In terms of specific plan and zoning consistency, the Pinole Terrace Center, which is located at Appian Way, has a specific plan designation of mixed use sub area of Appian Way corridor with a zoning of CMU commercial mixed use. As part of table 2 in your staff report, staff has looked at a number of different policies of the 3 corridor specific plan that would be applicable to the Pinole Terrace development. Land uses policies 5, 6, and 7, which support existing viable uses while encouraging the new mix of uses, actively promote the revitalization of underutilized land, promote a variety of retail uses that are compatible with the pedestrian environment, and promote a variety of small retail and office spaces opportunities for the small business. The Pinole Terrace project, the Pinole Terrace has a zoning designation of a CMU. The CMU zoning designation requires that at least 51% of the total floor area to be commercial retail services. The Pinole Terrace project is 100% commercial retail and office use, but is allowed to do that. In terms of the overall design of the project, Pinole Terrace is proposing to convert 6 spaces of existing partially enclosed parking spaces into 40 square feet of utility and 40 square feet of utility space underneath in an existing building into 1,960 square feet of new commercial and office development. The scale and design of the project is seen as attachment B in your project. The rear elevations that outline the new commercial spaces. The sidewalks will connect to the existing sidewalk of building 1 to the new commercial spaces. Additionally, the parking lot in the rear of the building will be redesigned to allow accessible access and new garbage enclosures. See page 1 of the design package and attachment B. By squaring off the parking area on the west side of the property, it will increase the parking by approximately 6 spaces and will create additional opportunity for landscaping within the site and to refresh the visual appeal and create a sense of continuity within the entire development. In terms of the comprehensive design review findings as required by section 17.12 150H, in order to improve the comprehensive design review, the Planning Commission is required to find that the comprehensive design review is consistent. Staff has listed those four findings. Finding number 1, the proposed project is consistent with the objective of the general plan and complies with applicable zoning regulations, plan development, master plan or specific plan provisions, improvement standards, and other applicable standards and regulations adopted by the city. Of course, in terms of the staff's comment, after reviewing the project, general plan and specific plan policies have been identified to satisfy consistency with this project. The project is consistent with table 3 of the development standards of the city of Pinole based zoning districts. The project is consistent with table 6.16 through table 6.19 and figure 6.11 of the Appian Way corridor land use and development standards. And the Pinole Terrace project was reviewed and approved by the city in 1987. Since the completion of the original project, the only construction that has occurred was a similar conversion of a carport area into commercial tenant space underneath building 1, which was permitted back in the early 90s. As you can see, as table 3 of the development standards of Pinole Terrace setbacks, this project meets all the front, side, and rear setbacks with no modifications or additional development at the front of the property. Its height, it's actually about 4 stories. The code requirement is 4 stories or 35 feet. Height of building 1 is 25 feet. The project area is enclosing existing space, so there will be no height to the building. Retail sales, banks, 1 space per 300 square feet of gross floor area, and of course, restaurants, bars, and nightclubs, 1 space per 100 square feet of gross floor area, excluding kitchen and public and other non-public areas. The existing project with the parking spaces underneath and all the requirements, they had an existing 128. With the proposed project, they now have 131. So they've actually increased it by 3 parking spaces, the overall development. Staff concludes that based on the discussion above, and the proposed project is consistent with the general plan, 3 corridor specific plan, and the city of Pinole zoning ordinance. Finding number 2 is the project will not create conflicts with vehicular, bicycle, or pedestrian transportation modes of circulation. The Pinole Terrace Center has 1 ingress and 1 egress. The main access way is on Appian Way. The access on Appian Way is a full access driveway. The Pinole Terrace project has provided 131 parking stalls. It includes 6 handicap stalls The project will provide roll-up sidewalk along with new construction that will connect to the upper section of the building. And the Appian Way has improved gutter and sidewalk for pedestrian access in front of the project area. There is no change to the improvement on Appian Way. There are existing ADA accesses that allow to connect the building with crosswalks. And as seen in the site plan package, Appendix B shows the sidewalks and crosswalks within the project area. So with staff concluding that based on the discussion above, both projects will not create conflicts with the vehicular, bicycle, or transportation modes of circulation. Finding number 3, which basically says that the site layout, which means the orientation and placement of the buildings and parking areas, as well as the landscaping, lighting, and other development features are compatible with and complement the existing surrounding environment with the ultimate character of the area under the general plan and applicable district plan. Basically, since the project is underneath building 1, the orientation of building 1 is not changing as a part of the project, nor is any of the landscaping in the existing portion of the project or on building 2. There's no changes at that part. The major change is in the rear of the property, which changes diagonal parking to 90-degree parking in the rear of the building, increasing the number of parking stalls to 131 parking stalls for the entire project area. So even the parking stalls that are being created on the backside are also can be used for other projects within the development. The overall net increase parking by 3 parking spaces, including the 6 spaces that were lost underneath. Also, as a part of the design of the northwest corner to accommodate a new trash enclosure and existing landscape area that will be expanded. All other existing landscaping areas within the complex will remain in accordance with prior approvals. The applicant will install a small wall mounted lights on the rear portion of the building above the doors. All other existing lighting approved with the original project will remain in place. All the project amenities are located within the project area that were approved with prior approvals and will not be removed with this project. The project, as well as the existing project, complements the existing surrounding environment and ultimate character of the area under the general plan and the specific plan. And based on the above discussion, the site layout and development features are compatible with and complement the existing surrounding environment and ultimate character of the area. Finding number 3 is regarding single family residential or multifamily residential and residential mixed use projects. This staff's basic comment is that Pinole Terrace Center is proposing an addition of commercial square footage to a commercial building. There are no residential components to this project. Based on the discussion above regarding the use of the building, this finding is applicable to this project. As part of the comprehensive design review, there are also must consider each of the following consideration. Each consideration is listed below, followed by staff's comment and conclusions. Again, consideration relating to the site layout, orientation and location of the buildings, signs, and other structures, open spaces, landscaping, and other development features in relation to the physical characteristics, zoning, and the land use of the site and surrounding areas. The revised site plan dated January 9th, 2023 and revised May 1, 2023, as well as the assessment of the project in this report demonstrate that this project has been designed to consider development features applicable to the project site and surrounding properties. The rear elevation provides a new architectural theme than the existing complex. The front of the building is consistent with an upstairs and downstairs design. Figure 5 shows the rear elevations, showing the rear face of the building that is different than the front elevations of the front of the building. It gives the appearance that there's 2 different buildings, even though it is just one. The enclosed area will have the same color scheme as the rest of the building using earth tones, e.g. tan, brown, etc. So as you see on rear 5 on the elevation, it kind of gives the building with the beginning of the front of the building has pretty much, they have the awnings, but you walk in on an angle, they're kind of squared off, where this just shows kind of like it's kind of a flat, but also kind of gives you an idea of the upstairs. So it gives the impression that it's a 2-story building, at least in terms of the rear elevations, even though it's only one. And so that's where that theme kind of came from, where it's a little different than the front elevation. So it kind of gives the building another architectural feature. Staff, based on the discussion and the design package, the Pinole Terrace project is consistent with the relation to the site layout, the orientation and location of building signs, other structures, open spaces. That I also wanted to comment that there could be additional signage on the back of the building for the businesses there. However, the signage in front of the building will all be the same. So there really would be no increase in terms of, or no changes within as you enter the complex. So I just wanted to comment on that. and that the physical characteristics and zoning and land use and site surrounding properties are consistent with the additional finding. Number two, considerations relating to traffic safety, traffic congestions, including the effects of development plan on traffic conditions on abutting streets, the layout of the site with respect to locations and dimensions of vehicular and pedestrian entrances, exits, driveways, walkways, adequacy of off-street parking facilities to prevent traffic congestion and the circulation pattern within the boundary of the development. The Pinole Terrace Center has one main ingress and egress on Appian Way. The access to the complex is aligned with Michael Drive to the east to form basic intersections. So you have two left-hand turns that are existing, one into the shopping center and one onto Michael Way. So it kind of gives the impression that there's an intersection right there. There are traffic signals to the north at Appian Way and Fitzgerald, and also to the south at Allview and Appian, which is in the unincorporated area. As through traffic on Appian Way has the right of way, traffic entering and exiting the project site do not have protected turns. The proposed project will increase the overall commercial square footage on site by approximately 5%. The minimal size of the project will have negligible impacts to the existing intersections. The Pinole Terrace Center has full sidewalks along Appian Way and connects to the existing sidewalks within the center. The Pinole Terrace Center is providing 123 parking, well, the 131, that's should be there, 131 parking stalls throughout the entire complex. And also condition 21 requires that the applicant will be required to add 10 bicycle spaces as well. So basically some bike racks for some spaces, also include additional bicycle parking as well. 3, the considerations necessary to ensure that proposed development is consistent with the general plan applicable specific plan, but including but not limited to the density of residential units. As staff has said, there are no residential densities within the zone within this area to the project. The general plan and specific plan policies have been identified to evaluate the project's consistency, and staff concluded that the project is consistent with the general plan and the 3 corridor specific plan. And finally, the 4th consideration is relating to the availability of city services, including without limit to water, sewer, drainage, police, fire, and whether such services are adequate based on city standards. Based on our review of available utility information, the project has availability of water, sewer, drainage, police, and fire. The applicant will be required to install new green infrastructure in compliance with the most current Contra Costa Clear Water Program guidelines as required under the current regional water quality control permit. The project will also be required to add trash capture devices, basins within interior parking lots prior to the issuance of the occupancy permit. As documented in this report, city services are available and adequate to serve the site. Also, the developer will pay impact fees on the per square foot basis to augment city services for this project. In terms of the environmental review, the California Environmental Quality Act provides several categorical exemptions, which are applicable to categories of projects and activities that the lead agency has determined generally do not pose a risk of significant impacts on the environment. This project consists of an addition of 1,960 square feet to a non-residential building, which classifies exempt under section 15301, or class 1 existing facilities. Staff followed the following public notification rules that are outlined in California Government Code 65090 to 65094, that the public notice must be given at least 10 days before the scheduled hearing date of a hearing. Staff did that. We published it in the one newspaper as well as mailed to the property owners 300 feet to the exterior boundaries of the property involved in the application. We also mailed to the owner of the subject real property or the owner's authorized agent to each local agency expected to provide water, sewage, street, roads, schools, or other essential facilities or services to the proposed project. We posted at City Hall and we mailed to any person who has filed a written request for notice. Staff, based on that, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt Resolution 2307, approving comprehensive design review and the CEQA exemption for the construction of 1,960 square feet of commercial and office space located at 2550 Appian Way. So that concludes my report. If you have any questions or need any clarifications, I'll be happy to answer those. If not, we can then open up to the public hearing.
All right, so I'll go ahead and go around the commissioners from my left to my right. So Commissioner Sandoval, do you have any questions about this item?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Vice Chair.
I noticed that in condition 22 of the conditions of approval, it said that the applicant shall install wiring for 7 parking stalls to provide 2 EV chargers. Just kind of wondering, what would these EV parking spots be considered in the parking section that's going to be changed, or they're going to be moved somewhere along the site?
They can be located anywhere within the center because all the parking is for the center. That's something that we'll be working out with the property owner of where those will be installed, and the infrastructure to install the wiring for 7 parking stalls. So that'll all be worked out as part of the building plans when they come in.
Thank you. I did have a second question and also noticed that the construction for this project has already started. Is it coming to the planning commission because it was just trying to get some clarification on why it was brought back to the commission? Was it not approved or something?
Yeah, we spotted the construction. We then noticed that it wasn't permitted as part of our code in section 17 point, I think it's 112, 150, as part of the entitlement section. It requires that all non-residential additions of more than 500 square feet require a comprehensive design review. And in our zoning code, as stated in the report in 17.10, as part of that, the planning commission has the review authority over comprehensive design review. So either one, even if they came back with just one for over 500 square feet, that would have came to you as part of the comprehensive design review requirements. But since we had them both then we brought them both to you. So that's why you got both buildings.
Okay, thank you. That would be all my questions.
Great. Commissioner Lam Joey.
Vice Chair Menace, just point of clarification. So under staff comment for the second conclusion, traffic entering and exiting the project site do not have protected turns. Is there a way that we could look at that? I just know from going to that location, it gets really, really busy and almost just dangerous when you're trying to exit that lot, when people are getting out of school and that pickup drop off time where traffic is escalated. If that's something that we could look at, I don't know, a light or
That could be looked at as terms of a public improvement project or capital improvement program. But because of the number of the square footage is so small, to have that, and the rest of the center was already approved, it's hard to come back and say now you need this major transportation improvement because of this 1,960 square feet. If there was going to be a traffic signal to be brought in, it would have brought in when we brought the whole project in, the 2 buildings and the 37,000 square feet. The 1960 didn't trip. The 1,900 square foot addition is not tripping any additional thresholds for traffic. So that's why there's no change to that to the project.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Bender.
Yes, I had a question regarding item number 4 on page 13. In some staff comments, says the applicant will be required to install new green infrastructure in compliance with the most current Contra Costa Clearwater Program guidelines, program, etc. Is that really just for erosion and sediment control during construction, as opposed to any sort of C3?
Yeah, the project will be reviewed as part of the C3. The C3, because it's enclosing different areas, they're not adding the additional what we call drain water that's coming out of there is very limited. But that's why we're also including the trap capture devices. So that's also part of that green, as part of that green category as well. So yeah, there won't be any additional drainage at this point. The existing drainage will do what it normally does in the set, and the existing drainage that the project put in originally is able to accommodate this additional square footage. So
And if I may, I have two small comments, one about on the drawings itself in sheet number one. There is, at the very bottom of the middle, it's about basically accessibility issues. The very last line says new striped and ADA acceptable walkway wheelchair routes shall conform with the current 2019 requirements. Given this project does not have a building permit, it's actually, it should say 2022.
Yeah, we'll make that change on the plans.
And regarding the conditions of approval, I have a similar comment on page 22 of 23 under fire code conformance. Even though the planning commission doesn't really have any purview in terms of dictating what codes are being used, there is a reference there, compliance with the 2019 California Fire Code and the 2019 CBC. Those should actually be changed in the template going forward to say
2022. Yes, it should. 2022.
3 years down the road and changes again.
2022. That's on that. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And I guess we should probably go to chair before wrapping back around to me then?
Yeah.
All right, so Chair Benzoli, do you have any comments?
I do have a couple of quick comments. One is on condition of approval 41, the master signage program. It said the owner shall submit a master sign program for the property for review and action by the planning commission. Planning manager Penny, you mentioned there won't be any new signage though for the project. I'm kind of curious which it's going to be. My only concern is that there's an existing space C right now that's already built, and I didn't even know that was down there. Signage reasons.
Well, basically what we're going to be doing is reviewing his master sign program to include, because he had a master sign program when the project was originally approved, and we'll be incorporating the new signs. We'll be incorporating the new signs. You'll see that. And so if there's any changes to the square footage of the master sign program in terms of for better lack of term, pylon sign. I know it's not a pylon sign, but it's a farm sign. It's in the group of that. If there's changes to square footage within that sign, if there's proposed for that, then we'll bring that back to the planning commission.
Okay. And under the Pinole City of Police Department conditions of approval, there's a whole section on the feedback they gave for the conditions of approval. Was there anything that the Pinole Police Department recommended that wasn't incorporated into the conditions of approval?
No, all of their comments were as part of the conditions of approval. So,
and I think the last one I have is conditions of approval number 25. My guess is you don't need the certified graded pad condition.
We just want to make sure, like when we go back in, we know this, it's cement, it's concrete under there right now, but we just want to make sure that there's no issues with that concrete.
Oh, okay.
So just to make sure that all of it's still good. So
okay, perfect. All right. Otherwise, I have no questions. Thanks.
All right, so now it wraps around to my questions. I don't have quite as many this time around as I often would, to much relief, I'm sure. So let's see. There were a few points I had questions on in the conditions of approval. On page 21 of 23, condition number 72, it suggested that the owner shall direct future lower level tenants in the office building addition design as a possible bank to work with the police department to include obtaining emergency contact information and a recommended security plan to include an alarm system and video surveillance system. Given the existing public nuisance issues at that particular site that the developer is working to mitigate through this construction, did the police department have any concerns about that being a potential increased security risk for that particular potential future use?
no, they didn't. However, because of it is behind the building, they still wanted to make sure that was monitored. And so it'll be less of an issue because they won't be able to hide underneath the underneath the parking lot, but there will be people that will probably be traveling back behind there during the night. And so we wanted to make, the police department wanted to make sure that we still had some type of surveillance, or they had cameras or something that, so if there are issues, that then they can get reported to the police department and they can follow through on that.
All right, moving back to page 6 of 23 of the conditions of approval. Condition number 19 talks about sidewalk, curb, and gutter repair. Does that apply to the entire site, or does it apply specifically to the area that's being renovated? Because some other areas talk about this applies to the entire site, and some areas talk about just this one particular thing. I suspect there may be areas of sidewalks, say, facing Appian, that aren't directly impacted by this project, but might fall under that condition of approval. So I wanted to get some clarity on the scope there.
Well, basically, it's the whole, on this area, it's the whole project area. So we want to make sure that, because there will be some new sidewalk or some rolled sidewalk added to the project, as well as some sidewalk would be on the west side of the building. When we talked about connecting on the west side of the building, because the east side, the slope is too great. And so and as part of this project, we want to make sure that all of the improvements that they have in terms of their curb and gutter, in terms of that, is still improved. And so it's more of a review, just make sure it is. And if there are improvements that are needed, then we can make them with this project.
Okay, and then on page 20 out of 20, condition number 69, I've got a question about subcondition G, the one that talks about a rear parking lot. First off, rear is just a typo. It's not some specialized term that I'm not aware of, right?
Yeah.
And then would the new lights that the applicant is proposing to install solve that issue?
Yes.
Okay. That's all conditions, questions. Now, moving back to the staff report, page 9 mentions that there was a partial conversion, I think, in the early 1990s, but some other statements in the staff report imply that there was conversion going on right now. So when exactly did all the work that's happening here actually happen?
Well, the first, what we, on your site plan, 2550A on the site plan, that was approved back in 1991, that portion of the project. So that's been there. It's 2050B that is partially constructed right now. And that's the one that we caught, and that's the one we're here for tonight. And based on the conversations we had with the property owner, he wanted to do the same thing with building C, 2050C. So staff recommended that we bring it all together under one project. And so he's got full approval that he doesn't have to keep coming back to the commission. And so we can finish that. He can finish that off. So
I wondered a bit about that because the project scope does list 2550C as being not in scope, but I assume it's basically going to be treated as identical to 2550B.
yeah, exactly.
All right. I believe that's all of my questions then. So at this time, I will go ahead and open the public hearing. The time is 7:51, so it's before 11. And I will now ask the applicant if they wish to make a presentation.
Commissioners, City of Pinole. Thank you for, Ethan Maganes is my name. I am with Pinole Terrace LLC. I want to thank you first, as the City of Pinole and the Planning Commission for taking this matter for us. I want to thank the staff. I've been sitting here listening to this very lengthy, exhaustive, very inclusive report. I never imagined there would be something so long and involved when I first applied. I don't know this, but I am impressed, and I want to thank the staff for the effort. So, we're really part, in a way, always part of the Pinole Vista Shopping Center, but we're kind of an oddity because of the terrain. We're just, steeply up from the rest of the Pinole Vista. Traditionally, we try to attract, more retail people. We found out that we need to have a good amount of people in the offices on the upper level that would, with time, with the years, some of them would graduate down in the lower levels. This was a way of creating newer businesses in our experience. So originally we were built there in 1986, 1987. And that portion that we're talking about, which is the lower level, and many people call it the rear. We don't like to use the word rear. It doesn't really sound very good. If you want to open a business and you say, oh my God, I'm going to be in the rear of the building. So people don't like that in general. So, and again, in light of this, bring to your attention that the effort on our part has always been to bring more of an interest in that area. And in some way we have failed, mainly I think because of the terrain. It comes down so steep. It's something that people don't want to be there. If all this parking in the rear is there, has been there, very rarely used. People don't want to use it because they have to walk around. So for many solution would be to enclose some of it. So that's why 5 years thereafter we came to you and we asked and we enclosed part of it. The conditions were really aggravated with the pandemic where, the police had different attitudes. People have different attitudes about enforcement, and people were homeless, vagabonds and vagrants and what have you really come around and created so many difficult threats and risks to the building, because they would just go there and they would start fires. And we try to figure out solutions with these people. We have surveillance. We ourselves involved on a daily basis. The police was involved many times over the years, of course. And it's very, very difficult. It's somehow hidden. It's easy for people to just drive around with a car and a pickup truck and unload all their extra undesirable stuff right back underneath there. So we constantly move things out, dispose, accumulation, debris. People would throw things. This vagrant would start fires. So this was the need in the pandemic years for us to protect the building, and we had to close it. Of course, the easiest thing to do is just to put some cyclone fence there, but this looked so terrible. It's so terrible to have a retail store patronized, and you see, my God, this is all enclosed here. What do they have? They have pallets in the back. What's there? So the real thing to do is to carry on and to make something that would match whatever was there before. And this is what we did. This is what we have. Of course, it's all open on the inside, so that it's only from the outside that it looks attractive and it matches the rest. So the solution is really to close that as much as possible and to try to figure out ways, that is for us, to bring in a little bit more life back there. And there seems to be some response to all this. Hopefully with this additional space, it be a little easier for a couple of other places to locate there, to utilize it. So this is the hope and this is the effort. These are the challenges that we have faced, and the need to protect the rest of the building and not to create any issues. We had extensive interaction with the police. Things that they really wanted to see. These are people now that they patrolled in the night in that area. They just wanted to have lights that would come on when infrared, that if there's movement or an individual, then the light would come on. This is one of the things that stood out, and this is where we have more of all along there. And it's always a challenge how to make something like that, you know, that is attractive. Anyhow, our efforts is to make it nicer, to make it more acceptable to people. It has been a challenge, and I'm sure it will be, but we can only try. And I'm here to also answer your questions if there were any questions that you might have relating to maybe other matters. Before I leave, I wanted to tell you that if you were to discuss these matters relating to us in the future or Pinole Vista, what have you, please remember that there's a series of trees on Appian Way that have grown and they're huge. Those trees are an impediment to the traffic and people and potential customers that are coming out there. We have a lot of traffic, people that are going to also Brante out that way, and they're going at a great speed, by the way. And we're very fortunate that somehow we have managed that. There's a pocket that you can turn around and what have you. The staff, Public Works, many years ago, they said, okay, we're going to put a traffic light, but they never wanted to because they determined that it's better without. Of course, we would not object. We cannot pay for it. We don't know that necessarily this would be a solution, but maybe studied by the engineers someday in discussions with us may improve things. We're very, very fortunate that things have not happened so far. So that kind of, in a way, shows after 30 years that it's okay. Who knows?
All right. Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Ress. Let's see. I believe at this point, we now ask the persons in favor of the project to speak. So are there any speakers who wish to speak in favor of the project?
Okay, and Vice Chair, I want to note that there's no one online right now.
All right. Are there any persons who wish to speak opposed to the project? Hearing none, there's no need for the applicant to have an opportunity for rebuttal. So I will now close the public hearing. And we will now move on to commission discussion. So this time around, I'm going to go in the other direction. So I'll begin with Chair Benzuli for his comments.
No, I mean, I'm in favor of the whole thing. It seems like a good application to correct, the situation down there and increase the amount of available office space. So, I mean, I'm in favor for it generally. I don't have any questions.
All right, Commissioner Bender.
Even though the conditions of approval, number 21 and 22, the bicycle parking and the EV parking are not on the drawings, I am going to rely on staff to make sure that that is followed through. I certainly understand after visiting the site yesterday, the potential issues that the applicant has with, let's just say, free spirits wandering back there because it is very secluded. And I could understand their security concerns. And that's it.
All right, Commissioner Lam-Julian. All right, Commissioner Sandoval.
No really questions or comments at this time. I also feel favorable about the project. I do hope that the applicant has a good time finding some tenants for that space. I know it's quite an interesting location and could be a little bit hard to find, but I definitely understand some of the other concerns brought on by the commissioners and the applicant. And that will be all from me.
Thank you. So I guess this comes to my comments, and I've got a few questions about topics related to the applicant's presentation. I'm not sure whether we can address them now or not, but I figure I'll bring them up. First off, the applicant mentioned trees growing along Appian Way. I'm assuming those are trees in the median. Those would be covered by the city's tree ordinance and basically be unremovable unless they're eucalyptus, right?
Yes.
That's what I figured. And are we allowed to consider stuff like tying into the city's potential economic development plan for the use of the future spaces, or does that fall outside of what we could consider as a commission?
I think that's a little outside of what you would consider as a commission.
Okay, well, in my opinion, this seems like a reasonable project. It's scoped to handle clear and present public safety risk, as the applicant has noted, and as commissioners have observed directly. And it has various conditions of approval to create public improvements to the site so it looks better. It's more sustainable through increased EV parking and improved trash capture devices, improved lighting. So it should overall improve the health and safety of the region. And I'm overall in favor of it. So unless there are any other questions of staff, I request that a motion be made at this point.
Are the only changes, the code changes that Commissioner Bender referenced, bringing it up to 2022? I think those are the only actionable comments, right?
Yes. So when the motion's made, just
Yeah.
you need to make sure
Yeah.
that we include the corrections made to the condition.
Yeah, so I'd like to make a motion to approve the comprehensive design review PL 23-0003 and DR 23-01 at 2550 Appian Way with the conditions that the conditions of approval referencing the 2019 relevant codes are updated to 2022. I'm not gonna list them all, but just as a wholesale across that condition of approval.
And other associated documents, I assume.
Yeah.
Do we have a second?
A second.
All right, can we have a roll call?
Yes. Commissioner Sandoval,
Yes.
Commissioner Lamb Julian,
Yes.
Commissioner Bender,
Yes.
Vice Chair Menez,
Yes.
Chair Benzuli.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Congratulations. Hopefully this project will go well and be an improvement to the community. Thank you. We now move on to old business. We have none. New business, we have none. City planners and commissioners report. I don't believe we're doing any reports out from the ad hoc committee yet, but are there any reports to be made by the city planner's office?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, and I think we already know, but I just wanted to mention again that our housing element got certified by the state of California. So we are now in compliance with state law. And so that was a big win, a big lift for everybody involved. Our consultants did a great job, Michael Baker and staff and our attorneys and everybody else who was involved in that project. And that was a huge lift. We are working on the safety and environmental justice elements. So those will be coming to you probably in the fall is what we're looking at, late fall, probably early winter. We are also working on, actually now that the housing element is certified, now we're working on the implementation of the housing element. So we will be working on policies and programs for that project. I'm trying to think what else. I think that's all I have tonight. So unless you have any questions or anything that or someone knows anything, be happy to answer any questions.
I have a question of staff. Chair.
Go ahead.
Has staff ever heard of anything with regards to the former Pinole Creek Cafe and its use? Since it's been shuttered since the beginning of COVID?
We have talked to the property owner where there's nothing there's been nothing that's been proposed, and there's nothing that's been so we're working with the property owner right now.
All right. Any other questions? All right, so I'll move on to communications. If there's any persons online who are unable to comment earlier, I'm going to reopen that as an opportunity for public comment due to difficulties with the Zoom operation. Is there anybody who would like to make a comment?
Okay, yes, I do see the caller again, the person with the phone number ending in 5748. So let's see, and caller, when you're ready, please press *6 and you can feel free to speak.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please state your name and city of residence.
Yes, my name's Anthony, a longtime citizen and taxpayer of Pinole, over 40+ years. But I have to say I got disconnected or not connected when the earlier public comment section. I could not access the unmute, so it was either my phone or some technicality on your end, and it happened to me before at a staff meeting and some other meeting I remember. So I don't know if there's a way to verify that issue moving forward. But I'll take my 5 minutes. But before I take my 5 minutes, I was just going to comment on the planning manager's agenda or just recent statement. Can he again bring us up to date on the progress report for the Tara Hills I-80 Safeway Shopping Center with or without housing and or a new gas station there, because there's all kinds of rumors floating around, as well as the lack of application permitting for the new proposed animal ferals spay neuter location that snuck in and eliminated Pinole Animal Shelter, because the last time he said he would look into it, or there were no applications taken. And John Joya, the county supervisor, and someone else mentioned they weren't too happy with the business plan or the actual business plan of that ferals group that's supposed to move in there. And I went by there the other day, and there's just 2 or 3 signs on the side of the building and the front door that have probably been there for over 6 months, saying a new home of Fix-It Ferals. But I heard they were charging in other locations usury fees when it's supposed to be a nonprofit, low-cost location. So I would go back at the planning commission and review the permitting carefully with a fine-tooth comb if and when they ever decide to apply for any type of renovation or move-in permit there. And can you also give us an update on the Adobe caretaker behind the caretaker's house and dog park, the Adobe Trail? Because Mr. Hannum told us several months ago that after they repair the parking lot at one of the senior caretaker homes on Appian Way, they were going to take a bunch of the soil or dirt and move it into and fill the large breach or sinkhole at the in the middle of the Adobe Trail back there. And nothing has been said or done with that regard, as well as he was also going to look into the crossbar bridge over I-80. So you can give us that on Appian I-80, the barrier concrete Pinole bridge there that got knocked out over a year or 2 ago. And it's just an ugly black eye for our city that aluminum crossbar is bolted on there. And it hasn't been repaired with the proper cement concrete work there. And also to give us an update on what's happening at the caretaker's house, because city manager Murray and or someone else mentioned that, I know, it was a city councilwoman Martinez Rubin said they didn't want to face another problem. So that was the delay with the city manager moving forward on doing something with the caretaker's house across the dog park for the city of Pinole, because they didn't want to face the same problem that they did at station number 74 before the build out or after the build out, as well as the same problem that they faced with Verizon telecommunications that wanted to put a big fake telephone pole tree over there next to or behind station 74, because originally, and this goes back a few city council meetings.
Before you
or
go back
years,
a few
and
meetings, I should note you have about 10 seconds left.
a few mayors that was also was Indian land property, and it had to be rechecked or vetted that might be a related issue to the caretaker's home being held hostage or vacant for going on 2 years now. And we're losing close to $2,000 a month in rental income, I may ask. And as far as my comment for citizens to be heard, I would just like to ask that they investigate what happened at one of our prized properties, the wastewater treatment plant, with the fire marshal going down there and putting the kibosh on our city council mayor fireworks approved show at the last minute. And it was canceled this year because they said something, the fireworks would cause a problem at the wastewater treatment plant. But I talked to a retired wastewater treatment engineer.
All right.
And he said, there's
Thank
no
you, Tony.
fire hazard
You've
there.
been speaking for about 6 minutes now, so I'm going
No,
to
but I
ask you to
did my-
conclude.
I think half of it was a response to the public planning commissioners updates. Part of it was the planning commissioners update that I'm entitled to respond to on the agenda.
Oh, I
And the
see.
other
So you've
half
had it
is-
as two separate comments. One moment while I clarify with our attorney.
I'll try to close on these two items that we have to take care of one of our biggest assets with the Pinole Hercules plant, where the Hercules wants to chip in and pay Public Works and the city some money to trim down the old dead vegetation, trees, bushes, and weeds all 3/4 of the way around the wastewater treatment plant. And engineer I talked to that worked for another wastewater treatment plant, he told me there is no way that wastewater treatment plant would have caught fire other than from the weeds and the bushes around the wastewater treatment plant. So you're not talking about gas fumes or something. And or why didn't they just move the fireworks show up the channel towards Richmond or Montalvan Manor, somewhere else out towards the bay in the swamplands below, rather than cancel the show at the last minute. And lastly, I'd just like to close by saying that with regard to the Ohlone Indigenous People Statement, that we should, after reviewing that, we consider making that trail improvement, name that Adobe Road Trail Improvement behind the caretaker's home out there when they get around to filling it, like Mr. David Hannum said they would do several months ago in short order, to name that trail after, or whatever, we'll go into naming that trail after the indigenous native Ohlone Indians, our local people. And we don't have not one school, park, or trail named after the Ohlone, like other cities, surrounding cities have multiple names in each city named after the
All
Ohlone.
right.
And shame on Pinole for not doing that. Yet they open every meeting by going into the stewardship of Ohlone and supporting the Ohlone people. But that's an empty statement. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other persons who wish to make public comment at this time?
No, there's no one else, Vice Chair.
And to clarify for the future, if people wanted to make comments on multiple subtopics there, would it be possible to divide that into multiple statements? Or would people only be able to comment effectively in one comment as for citizens to be heard?
Members of the public can comment on items that are discussed or considered by the city count, by the planning commission, separate from the general statement of citizens to be heard. I mean, just speaking as to that specific comment, there were questions for the planning manager, but they weren't unrelated to the topics the planning manager presented on. So those were just general citizen to be heard comments.
Okay, so I guess in the future, we should clarify that if people have multiple comments, that they should break them up into separate segments rather than having them all together at once to avoid confusion. So something to keep in mind for the future. And if there are no other public communications, I will go ahead and close this portion of the meeting. Our next meeting will be the regular Planning Commission meeting, August 28th, 2023 at 7 p.m. And I will now adjourn this meeting in the memory of Amber Swartz. Good night.